hello, Anderson Oliveira here for DNN Hero. Today is the last day of May and I have Scott, Joe. Joe, how are you?
I'm great, Addison, and I'm happy to report that warm weather has come to the Mid-Atlantic region.
Woohoo! Scott, how are you doing?
Yes, and warm weather has come to the northern central United States as well.
Very good, very good. So I hope that you guys had a great long weekend there. In Canada, it was not a long weekend, but I know that you guys in US had the long weekend there. So that's the reason why we're doing this in the last day of May. Let's get started here. There's no way that we could not cover this as the first thing out of the box. As you can see here, DNN security, there's something going on for the past, pretty much the past 2 weeks. It's a security problem that was exploited for the past 2 weeks by some hackers. There are ways to fix that, and I want to dive a little bit deep into that. I want to give a few, actually, just based on this blog post that I have in front of me, just to make sure that you are covered, even before you try to find out whether or not you have been affected. You should take some measures to prevent any potential future attack. So the first thing that I would recommend, which is like laid out here, is deleting a few files from the install folder. Install.aspx, install.aspx.cs. Anyway, I'm not going to read them, but you can see here there are 6 files that you should delete or just rename them. Make sure that you get rid of the extension. I didn't really delete. Actually, we had this problem on DNN Hero. DNN Hero was hacked. I didn't tell you guys, but yes, DNN Hero was hacked as well. So get rid of those files. That's the first one. Second, go to your super user account list. See if there's any new super user account that has been created that you don't know of. And get rid of that if there is anything there. That's the second thing. The third thing, before, again, you try to understand if you were affected or not, make sure that you go to host settings, and under other settings, that you check the allowed file extensions. Make sure that ASPX and ASP are not there. You don't want people to be uploading those types of files to your DNN website. So make sure that they are not there. So those were, I tend to think that those are the 3 first steps that you can take right away on your DNN website. Now, how can you know then if your site was hacked or not? Well, one big teller is if there is a new super user that you have no idea where that super user is coming from. That's a big teller. Also, the .asp and .aspx, if they are there, it's a good teller as well. Now, you can do one more check. You can go to the SMTP settings of your website and check if the settings are still there. Because what is happening is that when sites are getting hacked, the hackers are cleaning the SMTP settings, most likely to avoid the site owner to be notified about new users getting created or some other communication to the website. So if all of a sudden you stop receiving emails from the website, that's a good teller as well. Keeping on that same note, how can you know if you were affected or not? Now let's talk about about new files or modified files on your website. So the first point here is check if your site has any .php. We're talking about a .NET site, so again, you should not have .php unless you are, you know that you have a PHP-based site installed under your DNN site. Otherwise, there's no reason why you have PHP files. In .asp as well. So make sure that you don't have .asp unless you have legacy code there, but no .asp and no .php. Do a full site search. The tricky thing is, if you don't have direct remote access to the server, to be able to search for those files right there, you may have to download those files to your local environment and then perform there a search for those types of files. You can use, there are many tools out there that you can search, all files on a folder and subfolders as well. So .asp and .php. You should not have those types of files there. Now, it gets a little bit more complex than that, because now you have also to search for .aspx files that may have been added or modified on your website. Because of our work at DeskPal, we support a lot of DNN sites, and we have seen some of those hackers, they had made some small changes to the default .aspx file as well. So that's where things get a little bit tricky. How can you detect if a .aspx file has been modified, or you have strange, unusual .aspx files? Well, I'm gonna start with this. There are some keywords that we have been using, and we've been able to detect that hackers are using during their hacking. And it's funny that hackers, they like to promote themselves. So there's this file that they actually put their email address, their website address, their name. So there are a lot of terms that you can search for when you are searching through your site files. I'll give you a few. I'm selecting it right now. There's this rootkit. Search for rootkit. Search for, this is another file that was added to our site. Search for UPL DOSYA. Search for this term. Search for a few of those different terms, and hopefully the search results will come up with a file. You can use a tool like Notepad++. Notepad++, you can search through all text files on a particular folder and subfolders. So you can use Notepad++, which I have the code open right now. So that's one way to go about that. You can search for terms on your website files. Now, hopefully, if you are hacked, hopefully the results will come up with something. I just want to mention one last thing here about searching. We have also detected that the default.aspx had been hacked on some sites, and some iframes have been added to that file. So we may want to filter as well for something like search all aspx files that have the word iframe on them. Might be a way to check that as well. There's yet another way that if you are a little bit more advanced on DNN, if you are able to, if you are okay installing and grabbing files, what you could do is you could download your DNN site to your local environment. You could install another DNN site on your local environment, the same version of DNN as your copied site, and then once you install that, you can use a tool to compare file by file your local fresh DNN install, same version as your site, and the site as well. So you compare them and you see if there are any files that are different. That's one way to do that as well. You can use a tool like, I have it open here, like WinMerge, where you can say, hey, compare this folder to this other folder, give me the results, show me what's different, and you can easily double click and see the differences. Lots of different ways that you can go about identifying what's going on and if you have been affected or not by this hacking. Last point here, I promise that's the last point. Make sure that you reset your passwords. If you have been compromised, make sure that you reset your host level passwords and also the passwords on your web.config files, the connection to the database, and if there are any other passwords there by any chance, make sure that they are reset so you can be confident that even though your passwords may have been compromised, but you have changed them. I think that's it in terms of my security ramble. Guys, anything from your side, Scott?
I think you covered it pretty well. I did have a client who was complaining about just vanishing SMTP settings, and I believe that was what it was. And so I followed the steps, to clear out those files and look through the super user accounts to see if any accounts were created, any other malicious ASPX files or PHP files were created. So and just as a note, we have several clients that are, especially like municipalities, like city websites, and various others, maybe a little bit more high profile, I guess. But what we saw when looking at their IIS logs, not their DNN logs, but their actual IIS logs, is we saw 10% of their total traffic was malicious. And it wasn't, they weren't getting hacked, but what was happening was that the hackers were attempting things. And usually what they're attempting is to post, like you'll see an error in the DNN logs. If you're wondering why you see errors in your logs and the errors like an invalid view state or a string formatting issue or something like that, those are errors that you can't really avoid. They're errors that are coming up because what someone's doing is every ASPX page you can post something to, right? Because that's what they are. They're postbacks, right? DNN is still built on the web forms framework, so most, you post back stuff. And what they're attempting to do is exploit something with the validation or something like that, where they post something that the page doesn't understand, but they're hoping that it will get through, a SQL injection or something like that. And so what most of that 10% of malicious traffic that was coming to some of these websites was they're attempting to post something to fish for an exploit, and it was throwing an error, which the system should do. So, and that's just something to be aware of. But yeah, you're right, that mostly what they're trying to do is they're trying to update your default ASPX. .NET Nuclear has been hacked a few times. I've had to clean up my they're trying to put in code to let the Google crawlers think it's a different website to start promoting other websites, putting iframes, which is, again, is trying to redirect traffic or promote other websites inadvertently. Like if you went to my website, you wouldn't see anything wrong with it, but the crawler saw something completely different based on the default ASPX.
Perfect. Yep. Joe, anything from your side?
A couple of items. If you have a modern version of DNN, there is a host security analyzer module. Mm-hmm. You should take a look at that. I don't think it would have caught any of this, but you should still keep an eye on things. If you're using Evoke, part of the security tools in Evoke is that it will actually give you a list of all of the files in your DNN Evoke install, which ones are unmodified from the original, which ones have been added or changed. So it's probably a good thing to review those at some point and see if you can understand why certain files have been changed, or if the added files are ones you intended to add.
Do you remember, Joe, where that is under? Is it under the host? What that module?
I think it's under host security analyzer.
Oh, it's okay. Security analyzer is part of that module. Okay.
I think I don't.
I'll have to try that.
A slide open. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a recommendation that I saw as well, which is if your site, if you are on a version prior to 7.4.1, then you can install Security Analyzer, and it will give you it will show you if you had or not unusual host level activity, super user activity. Yeah. If your site is newer than 7.4.1, Security Analyzer will already be there. So it's one more verification that you can do as well.
And my understanding is that if you're at 7.4.2, I would say you're less vulnerable to this particular problem, but I'm not sure if you were totally invulnerable. So removing.
Not if you've been upgraded.
I'm sorry?
Now, so the site that I had this problem on was 742, but it's been upgraded over time.
Okay, so removing those files is always the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And checking the list of extensions that are uploadable. Do you know if upgrading to 8 point something .3?
I think they may have actually addressed it in the installer to check for those files and delete them. I think maybe that's what they did in 8.03 or whatever
It deletes them after it does the upgrade?
I think so. I haven't tried it yet, but I think that's what they were trying to address, because what the problem was the installer changed over time to be more secure, but didn't actually clean up files.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Yeah, that was my question. Was that, I mean, are those files required for something else? But I guess not. I guess they are used during installation and during upgrades, which will come with the installation package, with the upgrade package.
Presumably, when you install an upgrade package, it installs new versions of those files.
And at the end of the process, it gets rid of them. I guess that's what's been done now.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you think about how you do an upgrade is you overlay the files, but that wouldn't necessarily delete old ones. And I guess they changed maybe their installation routines used to be code behind the code file type ones, and they changed it to be in part of a compiled assembly to make it more secure. And over time, those CS files just stayed there.
True. Okay, great. So I think that this was an attempt to do a bit of a comprehensive walkthrough of how you can go about securing your site, securing your DNN website. In case, just a big shameless plug here, in case you have any problems, in case you have, you need any help doing any of that, let us know at deskpal.com. Shameless plug. Anyway, moving on. Blog post. A blog from Scott. DNN 8 development technique comparison. Web forms, MVC, and SPA. Tell us everything about this blog post.
Yeah. Well, I was able to squeeze a blog post in between Daniel Mettler's, and no, it's just a brief blog, basically coming out of the DNN Con Baltimore talk about kind of a comparison, or not really a comparison so much as why would you want to use the new types. There's been questions on the DNN Hero forums about someone talking about upgrading their web forms module to a new template, and there was some confusion about that. Like, you don't, and I had to try to explain, you don't need to do that, like, unless you're wanting to move toward developing in a new type or converting to the new type, the SPA and MVC. So that's basically the gist of it. It's a pretty short post, but the main thing was tell community about the 3 modules that I built for DNN Con, which was that restaurant menu module that was built in web forms, SPA, and MVC. So it's the same functionality built 3 different ways. That way you can compare, you can A/B test and see what the differences are. And but that leads me into the SPA module set that's coming up for my new DNN Hero video.
Perfect. Okay, good. So that was one blog post. The other one, and that's from Jeff Barlow from the Netherlands. He is from the UK but lives in the Netherlands and is doing a lot of open source themes. This is the second one. Last one, the previous one, a month ago. Then we have another one called the DNN M Design, which is as high quality as the previous one, which is called the DNN Bootster. Bootster. Yes. And so
I think you're right.
Yeah, so a new one here from Jeff, together with a blog post explaining what comes within the new theme. You can download it from the DNN store. Here's a sample. very well put together. Actually, we had used that for one site already, which I'll plug at the very end. And you can see on the DNN store, very expensive, of course not. $0, open source. Guys, get it. Give feedback to Jeff. I'm sure that he will be fixing anything if it's required. I gave him some feedback as well. Great themes. Actually, let me tell you, I have not seen that level of open source theme yet. You know, I have not seen that, and that's his second one. I don't know if he will make this a monthly routine of having a new theme launched every month, but great contribution to the community, and thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, can we just add to that he's using the Google material design, and if I'm allowed to mention DNN Creative here, for those who want to understand a little bit more about how you would build a theme using the material design, there's a terrific tutorial at DNN Creative. And I think putting the two together, you can take what you would learn from that tutorial and use that to understand how Jeff built his theme. I'm a real fan of taking well-designed, well-built themes and modifying them for other websites. You don't have to stick totally with the design of the site or the color schemes, even if they offer 1,000 variations of the color schemes like Jeff's does. So I'm always on the lookout for a really nice theme that I can take and manipulate for particular websites. I've got a favorite one that I've been using for a couple of years, and when I see something like the material theme, I consider making a change the next time I have to do something.
Actually, it's in a way it's very similar to what you have with module development templates. You know, I mean, you use that as your starting point, and again, you just grow from there, and you do whatever you need to do, but you have that base there already done for you. So yeah, that's a great strategy.
Exactly, and with a theme like Jeff's, there is so much there that you can spend as much time removing things that you're not going to use than adding things that you need. So it's I think these are absolutely terrific resources.
Perfect. Okay, moving on here, we have our friends from the Southern Fried user group. We had a meeting a few weeks ago with Joe Brickman, and that presentation that Joe had done here is an extension of, or actually an expansion of his Ignite session talking about thinking outside the DNN box. So the link is here. All links will be published with the video as well. So there is the full recording together with a lot of notes here. I highly recommend checking out Joe's talking about thinking outside the box. During the Ignite session, you just have 5 minutes, but here he really expanded that presentation to make it a lot more juicier. Okay, DNN Connect 2016, just around the corner. This is, we are on May 31st, and the event is happening, it's starting in 2 days. So just around the corner, people are flocking all over Europe, and some folks from the US, from North America, are trying to reach there. Not everybody is lucky enough to get there. Not gonna get to that, but hey, David, do you know what I'm talking about? I just came to know about a certain situation here. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that, but I'm gonna reach out to you to understand what's going on. But anyway, DNN Connect 2016 is about to start. June 2nd to the 5th, Girona, Spain. And if I'm not mistaken, I hope that this really happens, is that Channel Live from Microsoft is streaming one of the the rooms will be streaming all the time out of the channel 9. Is that correct, guys?
I don't know if it's continuous, but my understanding is that something that amounts to one track. So I'm guessing that they're putting sessions into that room that they want to make sure get streamed. And I think I saw that the keynote will be streamed as well.
Okay, so we are giving half-baked...
Wine will not be delivered to your home.
Okay, in any case, some stuff will be streamed. Not sure how much of that that room will be streamed, but some stuff will be. In any case, I hope that our friends from Europe have a good time there. Report back once the event is done, and I hope that it's very successful as the last one that you guys have done there as well. Anything to add to that, guys? Scott, Joe? Crickets. Okay, that's fine. Coming to an end here, Scott, next set. Scott has given me already the files. It's up to me now to put them up, but in the next few days, in the next day or so, I'll have live a new series from Scott, DNN SPA module development. Scott, what can you give us as a preview here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what you mentioned. It's going to go in the DNN 8 series track, and it's going to be a good foundation for DNN SPA development. I'll talk about the restaurant menu module, which of course is on my GitHub page. That's what we'll use as an example, but we'll create one together, a new SPA module from the Chris Hammond template. And there's some goodies in there that people need to know, using quick settings, which is a totally new feature, undocumented. Mine is the only one that works that I've ever seen, and that's what took me a long time to figure out how to work, because, you know, as you know, it's new feature, not documented, and no one else is. I couldn't find even an example within. Maybe I missed it, but you know, when we did the what was that, the contest, you know, for the new DNN 8 modules, I looked through all of those. I may have missed one. Maybe somebody did do it, but quick module settings is a real cool feature. It's mine, as far as I know, is the only one I know it works. And then image upload using a drop zone component where you can drop an image or any file. You get the code for that, so that's really cool too. So I always try to give little bonuses, in, you know, as it's not just one, you know, hello world type thing. It's, you get a few goodies with it.
Very good, very good. So you see, guys, now we have exclusive content inside your DNN friendly neighbor. You know, exclusive content you cannot find anywhere else. Anyway, that's my plug for DNN Hero.
Yeah, now with quick settings.
Yeah, exactly.
Now with quick settings, yeah. Great. It's that. I think that's it for me. Anything else that you guys want to add?
I will say one thing, and this is aimed at people who have developers develop modules for them. There are some features in DNN modules that are easy to overlook, and that is searchable and exportable, and one I can't remember. But if you are paying somebody to develop a module, pay them and insist that they develop those features. You don't want to put a module on your site that's putting important content out there for people to see, and you can't find it if you search. If you want to take a module from one site along with its contents to another site, you want to be able to export the module and its content and import it on another site. So go back and look at those videos from Scott that showed you how to implement these features, and insist that your module developers do those. I'll pass along a tip I learned very early in my DNN career, talking to somebody. Said, whenever I buy a module, the first thing I do is install it on my test site and then uninstall it. And then I verify that it's actually gone. All files get deleted, all database changes get removed. And he said if that doesn't happen, it's unacceptable. So, and I know there are people out there who are commissioning modules, so insist that you get a quality product.
Okay, so this was Joe pissed off with a module vendor. Just make it clear. We're not going to say the name, but he's actually very pissed with a module vendor right now, and this is his elegant way of putting things together, you know?
Right.
One person doing it ticks you off a little. When you encounter multiple instances, it really gets you going.
And another shameless plug is all they had to do is buy a DNN Hero subscription. We've covered all those integration points in the video library, so that's all you have to do.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And it's a lot easier to put it in at the beginning than to have some other third idiot come along and fix it.
try to retrofit it, yeah.
Very good, very good. And this will be an episode with a lot of plugs. So I'm gonna finish with a final plug to the community that I'm starting, called the Solo Coder community. I have been putting out one video a day, rambling about business stuff, about Solo Coder's career. I love doing that, and if you're curious about that, just visit thesolocoder.com and you're gonna hopefully figure out what I'm talking about here, okay? I think that's it for me, guys. We talk again in a month. Have a great June.
You too.
Bye.
See you next month. By the way, I'm not pissed off. I'm beyond that.